we're in this industry. We have the handyman, we have the tools, we have everything. So if I wasn't to do it, who's going to do it? So yeah, that's how it started. And then we reached out to a few charities, and actually we met some through mutual friends, and we now partner with some charities to help these underprivileged Hong Kong elderlies.
Welcome to Proudly Asian, a podcast series that tells bold and proud stories of Asians by Asians. My name is Isabel, your podcast host, and I'm here to find stories that challenge biases we all face every day. There's never just one way to look at Asians. This podcast will take you through a deep dive into the life stories, struggles, and triumphs of young Asians around the world. On today's episode, we have Andy Wong, the mastermind behind Hong Kong's on-demand home repair platform, Papa Bo. Hailed from Australia, Andy made the unusual choice to become a home repair professional. He talks to us about the trickiest home problems he has fixed and what made him decide to help the elderly repair their homes for free. Hello everyone, welcome back to Proudly Asian. For this edition of Proudly Asian, we're going to talk about a very common problem that you and I will have come across no matter where you are, which is repairing our homes. And this very episode brings you all to Hong Kong with me, where we meet this guest who has started a business about home repairing and eventually came up with a very meaningful initiative, repairing homes for elderly for free. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Andy, who is currently joining us from Hong Kong. Hi, Andy. How are you?
Hi, Isabel. I'm great. Thanks for having me on Proudly Asian. Even though there's a typhoon happening soon, I'm very excited to speak to you today.
Amazing. Definitely. I've heard the typhoon is coming and it happens to be a super typhoon. So I'll definitely not keep you for long so you can go home soon. But for us to get started with the conversation, we normally ask every guest on Proudly Asian the same set of questions, which is a quick introduction. Tell us about your background. Who are you? What are you? And where did you grow up, Andy?
Okay, yes. So who I am, I'm Andy Wong from Sydney, Australia. I was born and raised in Sydney, Australia. I did my primary school, high school, university, all in Australia, and decided to move back to Hong Kong around 6-7 years ago. A lot of people ask me why did I come back to Hong Kong, but of course my parents are also from Hong Kong. But I think work-wise, I got moved to Hong Kong. Yeah. When I was working in Australia, I used to work at a concert events planning company. And then they also had an office in Hong Kong. And then my boss, asked me to give Hong Kong a try. And after moving to Hong Kong, I fell in love with Hong Kong. I met a lot of amazing friends, and it really made me want to stay and build my career in Hong Kong.
Amazing. And just out of curiosity, because you spent your formative years in Australia, I'm just wondering what it was like growing up in Australia as an Asian kid. Was it much different to maybe people who grew up in Hong Kong or who grew up in Asia?
Grew up in Australia, it was, of course, it's very different. The culture is different. The education is very different. In Australia, it's very lenient. Grew in Australia, I'll have to say I was very, very happy because in Australia, we have big open parks, big open spaces. And as an Asian in Australia, there's not much Asians at the schools I went to. So I was able to meet very international friends. So for me, at a young age, I always had Western friends. So yeah, they always taught me their culture, and I tried my best to teach them their culture. So yeah, it was great.
Was there much of an Asian community in Sydney where you grew up?
Where I grew up, there was a quite big Asian community, but where I went to school, there was not a big Asian community. I actually decided to go to a school that doesn't have a big Asian community because I was living in a pretty Asian community suburb. So I wanted to learn more about, Australian culture. So I actually went to school near the farms, so I had to travel around 1 hour 15, 1.5 hours to school every morning. I'm talking about high school. I was in the farms. A lot of my friends was farmers, agriculture. So I was probably the 2 or 3 Asians in that school. But yeah, so I'd asked my parents to send me to school out in the countryside. So I was able to learn about more about their culture and then know more about Australia.
That's cool. And like you mentioned earlier, you moved to Hong Kong about 6 to 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Growing up mostly Australian Asian yourself, when you finally moved to Asia, right? Like, was there much of a culture shock when you first moved to Hong Kong?
Oh, to be honest, yes, there was a very big culture shock for me because I cannot read Chinese. And then there's a big culture shock of the living, the pace of the country in Hong Kong, China, everything is a lot more cramped. Yeah, it was a big culture difference. And I cannot read and write Chinese. So for me, even working was very difficult. And of course, during that time, my Cantonese and Mandarin was not that good. But yes, I had to learn a lot of the Asian culture, the work time is very different. And then I didn't know that much history about Hong Kong and China when I first came back. So that was something new for me to learn about the history, the culture, what's it like to proudly be Asian. Because I thought I was a Westerner when I grew up in Australia. But after coming back, I really figured out why I'm so proud to be Asian.
Wow. So there was quite a bit of soul searching for you. But I also know that it was in Hong Kong where you had this whole career switch, which you decided to become a full-time home repair professional and you even started a business out of it. So I'm just wondering, at what point did you realize this was something that you wanted to pursue professionally?
Yeah, it's actually a very funny story. So when I worked at this concert company, my job duty was managing the contractors because when you do a concert, you need to build a stage, you need to fix the lights, fix the curtain. So I had this job since I was 16, a part-time job, and then became full-time job. So I was always seeing how things were built, how things was fixed. So I was really very interested in this. So one day, for me, I always have this problem in Hong Kong when I moved here. Like, I don't know how to find a handyman. I have to ask my dad or my relatives or Google. It was very difficult, and then it was very hard to contact them. They didn't use WhatsApp at that time. It was just very unproductive just to try to find a handyman. And therefore that I think, I knew the basics. As when you grow up in Australia, you know how to fix things. At school, you already learn how to carpentry, fix things, mow the lawn. So I had the sense of how to always repair things. So that's why I saw a pain point in the market. So I decided, to give it a try, start a home repair or contracting business. So, I gave it a try and then luckily we're still here today.
Wow, it's just amazing how
Yeah.
your initial concert career kind of like connected you with a whole network of contractors and handymen in Hong Kong. And that's how it kickstarted everything. And I am so glad I'm finally connected with you because I hear you. I also have the same problem of not knowing where to find my handyman. I mean, let alone any handyman who might speak a bit of English. I mean, just out of curiosity, is it completely impossible to find any handyman who might speak some English here? Because I've heard a lot of my expat friends and even for myself, we face this challenge and that's why we feel so intimidated about working with any of them.
To be honest, it is very rare to find an English speaking handyman. So this is something that our company is actually trying to solve. We actually teach a lot of handymans how to use AI translation tools or even Google Translate. Because our industry, a lot of handymans, they're not really tech savvy. So we try to give them education. So people like you or myself that cannot speak the best Cantonese, they're able to still communicate with technology. So that's what we've been trying to also work on. But it is hard to find an English speaking handyman, but we do have some. Yes, we do have some English speaking handymans.
They are on the way, everyone.
Yep.
And just going back to that whole business, right?
Yep.
I mean, you mentioned that you're connected with a whole network of contractors and that, logistically, it gave you the opportunity to start your home repair app, Papa Bo,
Yep.
in 2022.
Yep.
I mean, so far you've been in business for about a year, right? I'm wondering what are some of the most common home repair issues that people have in Hong Kong? Because you mentioned since young you learned how to mow the lawn, but for a lot of Hong Kongers here, they don't have a lawn.
Yeah.
So what are some of the most common home repair problems that they need help with?
Well, I think AC is probably the biggest one.
Oh,
'Cause everyone in Hong Kong uses AC. AC would be number one. Um, Other repairs are pretty evenly scattered, but I would say AC and plumbing leakage, these are probably the top two that we see the most. I'm sure it happened to your house before, eh? If
yes.
you're leaking.
I do have a leaky AC.
Yeah.
What was the trickiest case you have solved in Hong Kong so far?
Oh, the trick there is so much cases that is tricky, but the tricky ones is normally when you're leaking to your downstairs person. So you're causing a leakage and you're leaking downstairs. That is normally the most tricky one because upstairs says you're leaking, and then sometimes you think you're not leaking. Sometimes it could even be the building management's pipes leaking. So it becomes 3 to 4 parties. You got the management, you got the downstairs, you got the person upstairs, and you got, of course, the contractor or handyman to solve all these three people's defenses.
I mean, they all sound really nightmarish because
Yeah.
I know a friend who had a bit of leakage in her home, and eventually it flooded the elevators of the building that she was living in, and she ended up having to pay for some of that, like repairing fees for the elevators, and it sounded very expensive.
Oh my gosh, that is exactly what happened to my own place.
What?
And then luckily, I bought insurance. Just remind everyone, you have to buy home insurance. If I didn't buy home insurance, it will cost me $1-2 million to fix the lifts. So I was away on holidays, and then the valve popped, and then it just kept flooding outside the lobby and then into the lift. And I broke the lift of the building, and then I got in very big trouble. But lucky, I bought home insurance, so it covers it.
Oh my God. And to
Yeah.
our listeners' reference, this is definitely not a home insurance product placement,
yes,
but if
yes,
any
it's
home
not.
insurance sponsors would like to work with us, hit us up. And since you now are an expert in the home repairing domain, I'm also wondering if there are any easy but underrated home repair hacks that you can share with us.
Easy? Oh, I think drilling, a lot of people ask to hang pictures, hang things. A lot of people think it's very tricky, but to be honest, it's actually quite simple. It's something that I think me or even yourself but you can do it at home. All you need to just is buy a drill and then buy a sensor that makes sure there's no electricity wires behind it. And you drill the wall, and then you have a hole there, you put in the screw, there you go, then you hang the picture and the job is done. So it is a pretty simple task, but a lot of people think it's very daunting, it's very scary, or the wall's going to break, or I'm going to hit some electricity behind the wall.
Mhm.
But I think it's something that is very manageable, and everyone loves hanging something on the wall.
Yeah, and I know this is also a very common
Yeah.
question. I'm not sure if you get this a lot from your clients as well.
Yeah.
Whenever they are finding a wall to drill, especially in a flat in Hong Kong, right? There are some walls that are actually like they're not allowed to drill, right? So what are some of the tips and tricks to identify which walls are okay, which walls aren't?
Okay, so firstly, you can ask your building management. Secondly, is you can have a print out your floor plan. So if you see on the floor plan that the wall is thicker than the other walls, then that's a structural wall. So you cannot drill on that. You drill on the thinner walls on the floor plan that you get. But for us, when we knock on the wall, we know. But this would need a bit of training, a bit of time. But since we're in the industry, when we knock on the wall, we roughly know what type of wall it is. But for others, I suggest asking building management or look at the layout of your apartment. And but the safest is asking the building manager. Yeah.
I definitely think what you do and, like your expertise should be built into the school syllabus of any kindergarten and primary schools. This is just like essential for surviving.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. In Australia, we were able to learn this during high school. There's a course to teach. I mean, it was a must course that you need to know how to do the basics. So the education in Australia that gave me this opportunity to start something like this.
And I know we spoke a little bit about that when it comes to like expats or like residents in Hong Kong who don't really speak Cantonese. It's a bit harder for them to find handymen to work with. So for you coming from this industry and knowing so many handymen, right? So what will be some of the advice that you have for like customers who might not speak Cantonese or who might find it intimidating to work with handymen? What kind of tips and advice do you have for them?
I think my first advice is probably ask 2 to 3 handymen. So just make sure the price you're getting is reasonable, and then make sure everything's written down, because I tend a lot of our industry is still very traditional. They just verbal promises, I'll fix this, but make sure you have everything on black and white. Um, if you're expats, they cannot read Chinese, and a lot of the handymen also cannot write English. I recommend you find a friend to just have a look at the description, what's included and what's not included in the repairs. Use Google Translate, will help a lot if you really don't have Chinese speaking friends. Then my advice, just definitely get 2 to 3 quotes and have everything written down.
And luckily,
Yeah.
some of them might be able to use your app, Papa Bo, right? Can you also tell us very quickly how it works?
Yes, of course. So basically, you just submit a job, just take a picture and write a brief description. And if you're an English speaker, we have a automatically translation. So if I write, my pipe is leaking, it becomes Chinese. So when you send the request, the handyman gets it in Chinese request, and they would contact the user, they inquire for the job. 3 people will contact the user through the app or through calling them, and they'll tell them a price. And then the user can pick which one they'll use. And of course, they can check their job history, who has the highest rating, which district do they mainly work in. You can check their profile. So we try and make things as efficient as possible, and mostly is price transparency. This is something that I really believe that people in Hong Kong should get price transparency. No one get ripped off. That's what I really fight for. Yeah, everyone gets a fair pricing and quality.
Yeah, because I know maybe even in the US, they might have Yelp where they can review their contractors and all. But then in Hong Kong, the only review platforms that's the most popular is like OpenRice, where they review the restaurants, but it hasn't expanded to other areas in life yet.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and I know there's also another very meaningful initiative that you started after beginning Papa Bo, which is an initiative called Papa Care.
Yeah.
Essentially, it provides free home repair services to those in need, especially underprivileged elderly people in Hong Kong. So I'm just wondering how it all started for you. Why did you make the decision to do this?
Oh, okay. So I'll tell you the story about this. It's quite meaningful to me, actually, when I think about it. I was at the right place at the right time, which really inspired me to do this. So one night, I was having dinner with some friends, and after that, we went for some drinks. I remember exactly where, in Tsim Sha Tsui. We had a great night, and then we wanted to buy some supper. We went down to McDonald's in Tsim Sha Tsui, and then I ordered my food. My friend ordered their food, and then we found that we went to get our seats, and then I realized everyone's around me was just like sleeping, on the chairs. They're just sleeping on their big bags. Like some people had suitcases. So I was like, oh, okay. So I asked the closest person sitting next to me, say, hey, is everything okay? Do you want me to buy you some food? Are you hungry? And I remember the old man said, no, I'm not hungry. I don't want any food. And then me being a bit nosy, asking, why are you sleeping here? I remember exactly what he said in Cantonese. I'll just translate it in English. So he basically said, I'd rather sleep in McDonald's because I get free water and I have air conditioning. My home's air conditioning has been down for ages. It's crowded, it's hot. I'd rather spend McDonald's, more comfortable. And then I asked him, oh, okay. And at that moment, I realized something hit me. I was like, okay, this is my industry. I help people fix things. Why am I only fixing things for people that are paying me? And when this guy is the most in need, he's sleeping at McDonald's for I don't know how long. So then I offered him, hey, do you want me to come help you fix your AC for free? And then he was a bit like, oh, this junk. Like, he didn't really believe me because I had the best canto. And then, we went on a night out with my friends. So we were just kind of nicely dressed. We didn't look like a contractor or handyman to him.
I know, this better not be a serial killer or something.
Yeah, correct. But you give me a phone number. I'll give you a call tomorrow. If you need us, I'm more than happy to help you for free. And I explained to him that I'm in this industry. We're leading home repair platform in Hong Kong. I'm not joking. And he's like, okay. And then the next day, me and my CFO went, fixed his AC. And then after going to his house, I realized like, oh man, there's so much people just like him at just that one TST McDonald's. There were hundreds of thousands of people like him. And then I really want to give back to society. Yeah, so I just really believe I want to give back to people in need, and that I feel like I'm capable because we're in this industry. We have the handyman, we have the tools, we have everything. So if I wasn't to do it, who's going to do it? So yeah, that's how it started. And then we reached out to a few charities, and actually we met some through mutual friends, and we now partner with some charities to help these underprivileged Hong Kong elderlies.
Wow. It's good that you started doing that. And it all started with a story that happened at McDonald's.
Yeah.
But so far, since the start of the initiative, is it possible for you to tell us maybe how many elderly people that you've helped so far, or the areas of coverage that the initiative has impact on so far?
I think we've probably helped over 200 to 300 houses already in the last couple of months. Coverage, we do across Hong Kong. To be honest, we'll go anywhere. If you're in Dong Chong or Lama, we'll go. But mainly these elderlies are probably based in Kowloon side. I'll say a lot of them are based in the green line of the MTR. The green line. Yes, but we'll go anywhere.
And since you also personally go to these underprivileged elderly's homes to repair whatever problems that exist in their homes, is that something that you can tell us about the underprivileged elderly community in Hong Kong? Other than home repairs, are there any other things that they need? How can people help them?
Well, after visiting so many houses, I think repair is probably one of the biggest one. I think also care. When I say care, I mean by I realize a lot of these elderlies, a lot of their family members are not actually in Hong Kong. When I speak to a lot of them are actually overseas. So they're quite lonely sometimes. So I feel like, if someone could just talk to them, give them a hand on some minor stuff, taking them to the checkups downstairs, it'll help them a lot. But I know there are charities already doing this, because we partner up with some charities that actually take care of them, invite them to learn a bit of dancing, do some exercise, instead of staying at home every day and just do nothing. I think we need more people, or more people to see that they need to be a bit more elderly care, get them more active instead of staying at home. That's what I see. And of course, repairs. A lot of things are broken, not working. Which we try our best to we try and solve that part of their problems.
Well, thank you so much for doing this really meaningful initiative for the elderly community in Hong Kong. It's really important work that you're doing, and you're raising awareness about the needs of the underprivileged elderly community. And also, you're doing important work to open up access to handymen for expats or those who don't really speak Chinese in Hong Kong. So it's definitely an amazing solution that you've started. Now, it's time for us to move on to the next segment, which is called Rapid Bias. In this segment, I'll be asking my guests biased questions that they've got asked at some point in life.
Okay.
And all these questions, Andy probably got asked in person by someone at some point. So, Andy, are you ready to answer it all?
Yes, I'm so ready to answer this question.
All right, let's get started. The first question, Are you good at maths?
I'm not very good at maths. I'm actually pretty bad at maths. Yeah, my teacher always says, I'm surprised you're not very good at maths.
Breaking that stereotype that Asians are all good at maths.
Correct.
And then the second question is, do you only eat fried rice for dinner?
I don't always eat fried rice for dinner, but I do like eating fried rice. And I like it eating fried rice with tomato sauce on top.
Wow. So it's like ketchup and fried rice.
Correct.
And the third question is, can you speak English?
That's a funny one. Yeah, of course I can speak English. Of course. Born and raised in Australia, of course.
And you are speaking it. What else did you think Andy was speaking?
Correcting. Yeah, correct.
And the next one, do you play piano?
A lot of family friends actually ask me this question as well. Do I play piano? Oh, I don't play the piano, but I tried. I did try to learn the piano. I did try to play the piano, but can I really play a full song? No, I cannot play the piano, but I tried.
I wish I could play the piano as well. But then do you think this type of question, playing the piano, it comes more from like Asians or non-Asians? Is that what like the Western communities would have, this kind of stereotype about Asians that they all play the piano? Or it's kind of coming from Asians like, oh, if you don't play the piano, you're not a very good Asian?
To be honest, there's a bit of both, but I think more leaning towards the Asian. Do you play the piano? do your son play the piano, or do your daughter play the piano? If you don't play it, you're not very Asian, you're not very smart. I feel like maybe that leaning towards that side more.
I get you. All the judgment from the uncles and aunties.
Correct. Yeah.
And finally, do you eat dogs?
No, I don't eat dogs. No, I don't, unfortunately.
It's like,
Yes, I don't eat dogs. A lot of the classmates would ask this because...
Yeah, it's like an old school racist question.
So that's why I was always trying to share my culture to that we don't all play the piano. We don't all eat dogs. We don't all eat fried rice. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you for playing this round of Rapid Bias, Andy.
You're welcome, Isabel.
And for us to close out the episodes, for those who would like to know a little bit more about Papabeau, where they can find you, where they can book services from you guys, can you tell us a little bit more about what are the channels that they can reach you?
Okay, you can of course go on our website, papabeau.hk. You can follow us on social media, also papabeau.hk on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, maybe Xiaohongshu soon, which is called Red. And of course, you guys can visit us, our office, grab a coffee. We have an outdoor seating area that we like sharing coffee with some friends and clients.
Wow.
Yes, it's based in Central, so quite convenient. So yeah, that's how you can find us.
And out of curiosity, why Papabeau? Does it mean something specific to you?
Oh, yes, of course. A lot of people ask me this. So to me, Papa is dad. And I remember when I was young, dad was always the one fixing the light bulb, getting the ladder. So Papa meant dad. And Bo in Chinese, Cantonese, as you know, it means protection, secure, insured, Bo Yuan, Bo Wu. So that's how we use Papa Bo. That the dad is going to protect you, protect your home.
Wow. Okay, that's an amazing name. And before we go, Andy, I just have one last question for you. To you, what does it mean to be proudly Asian?
Oh, this is a very good question. For me, what it means to be proudly Asian is great food, great culture, great history, and great people. That's what it means to me to be proudly Asian.
Amazing. That's a very simple yet profound way to define it. But thank you so much for sharing your time with us, Andy.
Thank you, Isabel. Thanks so much for having me on Proudly Asian. And take care under the typhoon.
I will. You too.
Yeah. Thank you, Isabel.
That's it for this episode of Proudly Asian. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at proudly.asian for more content. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review on wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in and signing off for now. I'm Isabel Wong.